Joining us now, Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, a member of the Senate Foreign Relations and Appropriations Committee, in studio with us. It's good to have you on.
Great to be on, Joe. Good to see you.
Senator, did you get to watch any of it, or are you just hearing about it?
I didn't. I'm just hearing about it now. But I'm well aware of the widespread concern among constituents that Doge broke into and got access to everyone's information out of the Treasury master file. Lots of Delawareans have called to express concern about their personal financial information being accessed by this unelected team from Doge. And I'm getting calls with complaints about wait times on phone calls for either Social Security or veteran services.
I think the overriding thrust of what Mr. Musk and the other members were saying last night was that we are on a course in this country of insolvency in a lot of different areas, including entitlements, if we don't do something, and including just overall government spending, the total debt at 37 trillion, and as a percentage of GDP by 2050, the numbers are staggering. So they're just, that was the point, was we are trying to address where we can and in the most prudent way possible. We're trying to address it now before it's no longer addressable. Is there any empathy or any understanding that that's something we might want to do in the Democratic Party right now?
You started to say, is there any empathy? And
for what he's
you
trying to do.
changed it to, is there any understanding?
Yeah.
And let me get to that point. The core challenge for Democrats is how Republicans are going about with what's called a reconciliation bill that's moving through the House and headed to the Senate that will slash $800 billion, mostly from Medicaid. I did an event last week with patients who rely on Medicaid for their health care, their caregivers, their families. These are disabled children. These are folks with medically complex conditions. These are seniors in nursing homes. There's broad agreement that we have a deficit that is out of control. There's deep disagreement about how to go about dealing with it. And the bill that we are seeing come through will explode the deficit, will dramatically increase how much America is spending by giving, again, one of the biggest tax cuts in American history. And
so you're calling spending, not collecting enough taxes. It's not actually spending it. You're saying that,
you know, the two are, a balance sheet is how much comes in, how much goes out.
I understand.
Senator, so, for example, laying off thousands of people from the IRS, one of the things Doge is doing, is projected to reduce Treasury receipts by 10%.
Right. Senator, Medicaid, I mean, this is just one story here. There's plenty of things to look at with Medicaid. Every one of the, most of the 10 million illegal immigrants that enter during the Biden administration, if they need health care, it's Medicaid. Not that you don't want to give people health care, but it also it's also been expanded. It's also been expanded
for constituents in Delaware. 250,000 of my 1 million.
It's been expanded far beyond disabled and poor people. It's been expanded far beyond that.
It's providing substance abuse treatment, mental health treatment,
chest care with lessons after school. And the $800 billion that you're talking about is you're not cutting Medicaid itself. You're cutting the increases that are built in over the next 10 years into Medicaid. That's all that's cut. It's still growing every year, right?
Look, the priorities of our parties are fundamentally different in terms of where we'd like to reduce spending and where we'd like to invest. One of the things that got broad bipartisan support in the last Congress was investing in chips manufacturing here in the United States. The CHIPS and Science Act passed with bipartisan margins in both the House and Senate. Trump is determined to cut this program, to claw back investments in chip manufacturing. That both hurts manufacturing and hurts our competition with China.
Do you think it was a good idea that you voted, you didn't go with the majority leader on keeping the government open? The Democrats have gaslit Republicans so many times about keeping the government open. And yet, with this most recent time, you know,
he was majority, now
now he's minority leader.
I know what you mean.
Minority leader was left out, hanging out to dry. He had to get, you know, a couple of, a coalition of the willing that went along with him on this, but you decided not to, and that would have shut the government down.
Well, I'm an appropriator, and I thought we should have voted for a 30-day continuing resolution that kept the government open, but continued our negotiations to actually do our job and do a full year appropriation. I'm the senior Democrat on appropriations for the Department of Defense. We have never had a full year CR for the Department of Defense. It is harmful to our national defense. That was the position every previous time we debated a CR. We should not have a full year CR for DOD.
Would you have closed the government? Would you have closed the government down, though? Would that have been the?
That isn't what was really in front of us. But the debate inside the Democratic Party over exactly whether we should have voted for or against that CR is dwarfed by the unanimity in the Democratic Party that we shouldn't be cutting Medicaid to pay for more taxes.
Do you think that Chuck Schumer did the right thing?
Look, he had a credible argument, a strong argument, that to shut the government down right now, given the widespread cuts to different federal programs that are in violation of law and, according to several court decisions, unconstitutional, I understand why he made that decision. I do.
Who's the figurehead now? Do you think is it
figurehead?
Who's the leader of the Democratic Party right now? I know
we don't
that
have a president that's a Democrat right now, so you've got a leader in the House, a leader in the Senate, a new DNC leader.
Does he damage that Senator Schumer at this point? You think he will he be minority leader in a couple of years?
That depends on whether he chooses to run again. If you mean 4 years from now. Look, I think he will likely be our leader again in the next Congress. This is something we choose at the beginning of every Congress. He's tough. He's a New Yorker. He's aggressive. And that's what I think Democrats are looking for in this moment. There was a striking outcome in a state Senate race in Lancaster, where my wife is from, where a district that was plus 15 for Trump just elected a Democrat for state Senate. As you saw in your previous segment here, all the indicators, consumer confidence, projections for inflation, are going in the wrong direction. And there is widespread anger among those who said, I voted for President Trump because he was going to bring my costs down. Costs aren't going down, they're going up.
Well, he's got the highest approval rating in his. He didn't have it ever this high in his first term. Never. We've got the highest right track.
Americans disapprove of what he's doing on the economy.
Okay, now you're
and
parsing.
Business leaders who come in to meet
but
with
it's still
me,
the highest he has. And right track, wrong track, highest level at 45% since 2004. People elected him to do these things, and they're still on board with him for the most part.
I don't think people elected him to put tariffs on, take tariffs off, put tariffs on, take tariffs off, and raise our costs. I think people were concerned, for example, about the cost of groceries.
We heard that was eating your vegetables, Senator. You got to eat your vegetables before you eat your dessert.
And the vegetables that we eat come from Mexico, about half of them. And the housing we want our kids to be able to afford relies on plywood from Canada and drywall from Mexico. If you look at the two biggest accomplishments of the first Trump administration, two real accomplishments, USMCA and the Abraham Accords, he's undoing both of them. This crazy suggestion that he would bulldoze Gaza and build some Riviera casino has really...
But he closed the border immediately, which you said you couldn't do, for 4 years, and you let in 10 million illegal... A lot of our problems right now stem from a totally open southern border.
The problem we have, and he has not deported as many as President Obama.
No, but they're not coming in. You know that it's not happening anymore.
What is right in front of us is his so-called Liberation Day next week. Can you tell me what he's going to slap tariffs on? Can any business tell us how they're going to plan?
That's why he's going to announce it then.
For production?
You're going to know by then. And
I will know by then.
And then the next day you'll know what changes.
Business leaders, I think, had very high expectations coming in to this administration. They may have been put off by what they are seeing with these flip-flops on things. But if you ask a lot of them, they will say, we didn't think we were going to get a fair shake at all under a Kamala Harris presidency. So is there a move within the Democratic Party to try and woo any of those business leaders and try and say, okay, we would be a party that you would want to support?
The sentence I just said, business leaders I'm meeting with, yes, part of the point of my engagement is to talk to folks who are leaders in businesses that I want to attract to Delaware, that I want to help grow, that I want to make sure are employing Delawareans, and that's how I approach this. Frankly, I think they're surprised somewhat about the tariffs and economic policy. They're also concerned about this signal issue where the very top national security leaders were violating sort of the basics about classified information and the lack of truthfulness in dealing with it.